George Washington is widely recognized as the first president of the United States, but have you ever considered how different his life could have been? This video explores Washington's background and speculates what he might have become if he had not pursued the presidency. George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, in Westmoreland County, Virginia. He grew up in a world of privilege and expectation. His family was part of Virginia's gentry, and young George had access to education and land that would shape his future. However, his father died when he was just 11, leaving the family in a precarious financial position. Despite this, Washington learned the values of hard work, responsibility, and leadership from an early age. His older half-brother, Lawrence Washington, was crucial to his upbringing. Lawrence's marriage to the influential Fairfax family gave young George opportunities for advancement. As a teenager, Washington learned the craft of surveying, allowing him to make his way independently and accumulate wealth. He later joined the Virginia militia, setting the stage for the military career that would change the course of history. Despite his upbringing in a wealthy and slave-holding family, Washington's early years were marked by hard-earned personal growth. He was ambitious but aware of the limitations of his formal education. He learned military tactics, diplomacy, and leadership by observing others and through experience. But who would George Washington have been without the presidency? If George Washington never served as the first U.S. president, he would still have been remembered as a central figure in America's fight for independence. His early military career began with some failures, notably his defeat and surrender to the French at Fort Necessity in 1754 during the French and Indian War. This setback might have ended some careers, but Washington's determination and willingness to learn from his mistakes gave him prominence. Washington first made his name as the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War. He successfully led the colonies to victory over the British, a feat few believed possible then. Even if he had never served in political office, he would have been remembered as the general who secured America's independence. Additionally, Washington could have remained a wealthy and influential Virginia landowner. His estate, Mount Vernon, symbolized his standing in society. He was deeply involved in Virginia's politics. He could have continued influencing the young nation's development without ever assuming the presidency. As a military leader and a founding father, Washington's reputation as a symbol of unity and strength would have endured even without his role as president. Even though Washington was reluctant to assume the presidency, feeling his talents were better suited for military life and private retirement, he is now celebrated for how he shaped the early United States in three essential ways: as a symbol of national unity, as a builder of institutions, and as a moral figure who set enduring precedents. When Washington was unanimously elected as the first president in 1789, he stepped into an uncharted role with no clear rules for how a president should act, and the nation's future was fragile. Washington set key precedents, including creating a cabinet of advisors and establishing the tradition of stepping down after terms, which became a cornerstone of American democracy. His leadership during these formative years helped stabilize the young country and gave it legitimacy in the eyes of the world. He guided the new nation through its infancy, navigating foreign and domestic conflicts, such as resolving the financial crisis under his Treasury Secretary, Alexander Hamilton, and dealing with uprisings like the Whiskey Rebellion in 1791. Washington's most significant contribution to the U.S. was preserving national unity during the Revolutionary War and the nation's early years. The fledgling republic could have fractured due to regional rivalries, political divisions, and external threats, but Washington worked tirelessly to prevent the dissolution of the Union, understanding that without unity, the experiment of democracy would fail. In his farewell address in 1796, Washington famously warned against the dangers of political parties and foreign entanglements, emphasizing the importance of national unity. His message, while not fully heeded, has been a guiding principle throughout American history. Washington became a figurehead for moral integrity and civic virtue. By refusing the title of king and choosing instead to lead as a president within a democratic system, Washington rejected the temptation of absolute power. His willingness to step down after two terms demonstrated his commitment to the peaceful transfer of power, which became one of the most important traditions in American democracy. While Washington is often portrayed as a near-mythical figure of perfection, many lesser-known aspects of his life reveal a more complex individual. Washington's military career had rocky beginnings before his Revolutionary War leadership. During the French and Indian War, his surrender to the French at Fort Necessity was a low point, but this early failure, though often overlooked, taught Washington valuable lessons about leadership and strategy. Rather than defining his career, it became a stepping stone for later success. Washington owned hundreds of enslaved people over his lifetime, a fact often overshadowed by his military and political accomplishments. However, his views on slavery evolved over time, and by the end of his life, he had become uncomfortable with the institution and decided to free all his slaves upon his death, a bold move for his time. Yet, his actions during his lifetime did little to challenge slavery directly, making this one of the most contradictory and challenging aspects of his legacy. Washington's decision to personally lead troops to suppress the Whiskey Rebellion in 1794, when Pennsylvania farmers protested a federal tax on whiskey, is another lesser-known but essential part of his presidency. It showed his commitment to upholding federal law and maintaining order, but it also revealed his willingness to use military force against American citizens, sparking debate over the role of government in people's lives. Though Washington's imposing figure is often remembered for strength and resilience, he struggled with various health issues throughout his life, surviving smallpox and malaria, among other ailments. In 1799, just 2 years after leaving the presidency, Washington died from a severe throat infection, likely acute epiglottitis, after medical treatments like bloodletting made his condition worse. His sudden death shocked the nation, leaving an enduring sense of loss. George Washington's life and legacy are far more intricate than the heroic figure often depicted in history books. From his early military failures to moral struggles over slavery, Washington was a man of contradictions and growth. His most lasting contributions establishing a stable democratic government, preserving national unity, and setting the tone for future leaders remain central to the United States identity. Behind his myth are stories of personal failure, evolution, and the complexities of a man as human as the rest of us.